Within 6 weeks, I went from £40 left in the bank with 3 children and a wife to look after. In 6 weeks, to having more money than I'd had in about 3 years.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Into the Nothing with your favorite host, Patrice. And on this episode, I have Michael Watson from Reborn with Michael. If you don't know what that is, check his YouTube out. But Michael, welcome to Into the Nothing.
Thanks for having me.
Michael is all the way over in the UK, living in his farmland in the country, and I am also in the country at my parents' farm. And so I'm just sitting here underneath a lamp to get some light on my face. That's about all in terms of tech we've got here. So sometimes you just got to go lo-fi and just go into the nothing. And Michael was just saying before we hit record that he's like, I like that. This is how I do my YouTube channel. I just say yes and just go for it without planning. So that's what Into the Nothing is all about. So Michael's a perfect fit. So welcome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. No, it's a pleasure. I got to say, when you do things that are a bit less planned, a bit raw, then you give space for something wonderful to happen, don't you? So you never know what may come out of this podcast today.
So true. So true. And so, Michael, I've got you on the podcast because I love your YouTube channel and I'm just saying to grow my own YouTube, and I'm just having such a ball creating videos and just saying whatever I want to say. And in that process, I found myself following a few people on YouTube, and I find myself watching a few people and all of their content, and you're one of them. I love it. You're so relatable, but the concepts that you're talking about are concepts that I am so passionate about and I'm so fascinated with. Concepts like law of attraction and creating our reality and understanding that our internal world has something to do with what we experience on the day to day. And my first question for you, Michael, is how did you get into this? Because I know that you were an actor and now you're a coach and you have an amazing YouTube channel with a really engaged audience where you're just being yourself. And so, yeah, can you talk about life before you really got into this? Or were you a young man always fascinated with this kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, you could say I was a young man because I was young when I got introduced to it. But this is a bit of a funny story, actually. So when I was training to be an actor, you have that youthful sort of like confidence, Now I wasn't like arrogant, but just like I'm going to do this. So when I was training to be an actor, if ever a teacher would be like, listen, you guys aren't going to work if this and this, I'd be like, I'm going to work. I'd always respond back to it in my head, not out loud, I wasn't like, you're wrong to them. I was just in my head, oh, I'm going to do this, And then I watched a show called We Will Rock You, which is the Queen musical, and I was about 17 and one of my teachers was in it and I watched it and I said to my friend next to me, I'm going to be in that, and they're like, oh yeah, you go for it, man. And we're all supportive of each other, but I was like, I'm going to do that. I just have to do this show. I'm going to do this show. And actually the story goes that I was doing this sort of convention with the college. An agent saw me there singing. He's like, I want to sign Michael. And then my first audition was for We'll Rock You. I actually went in front of Brian May, the guitarist of Queen, and sang We'll Rock You. I was so green that I actually took a backing track with me and I was like, I've got We'll Rock You with me on this CD. CDs were still the thing then. That's how old I am. And they were like, okay, we don't have anything to play that on, but we can play it on the piano and you sing it. Anyway, long story cut short, I end up getting the show. Now, I was not into the law of attraction or creation at that point, but I just had an opportunity and I nearly didn't get it. They were like, we're not sure. He's a bit young. Bring him back in one more time. I went back, worked on it, made sure I was really good for the audition, and I got the show. I was only 18. So I was the first person out of my college to ever get into the West End, which is like the Broadway of England, And what happened there was I always wanted to be in a boy band, and I had an audition for a boy band, and I didn't get it. And one of the wonderful dressers there, who was an actor, out of work actor, he was like, "You seem so sad, man, but I want to give you something." He gave me the secret. This seems to be the pathway for most people's spiritual journey, right? And I was like, I am sad. I'm just going to watch it now in my dressing room and watch it. And I listened to it all and I was like, that just makes so much sense to me. And it made so much sense to me. And so then as an actor then, I used it to build my career. And I literally used to visualize myself getting certain roles. And one thing I wrote down was this list once. And this is something that I have told people in the past. At about 19, I wrote a list. I said, I'm so happy and grateful now that Bob Proctor type of thing, you know? And I wrote, what was it? I'm 25 and I'm a leading actor in the West End. I'm making this much a year as an actor. I bought my first house at 27, kids at 30, blah, blah, blah. All of that list became true. At 25, I got Frankie Valli and Jersey Boys, and that was that. And I was earning the money that I said I would earn a year, which was not a small amount. I was very grateful. And I bought a house because of that at 27. And that was the journey, man. And so I've always been into it in that sense. But then I lost my way. And that will be something that we can go into later. But that's when I lost my way and I went through some really tough times at the height of my career as an actor. And that's when I really started to discover, when I came out of the other side, we can talk about what happened there, but I discovered this is what I need. I need to help people, because this pain that I went through, I want to make that journey from pain to better this big, rather than huge like it was for me, you know? I felt like there wasn't the coaching out there that I needed, you know? And that's not taken away from any coaches, just at the time, I didn't feel that, you know what I'm saying?
I think that's the beauty, isn't it? I can so relate of going through tough times and being so in my head and feeling so stuck. And it's like, how do I get out of this? Surely there's a way. And it's the magic of those tough times, isn't it? Where you just, everything's just start to, like your knife sharpens for what you can create and how you can move through something. And you realize that it's really not out there. But yeah, Michael, I'd love for you to share a bit about what you navigated and what you experienced that really brought you clarity into moving into being a coach and helping others with the tools that I'm assuming you used to help you when you were going through a tough time.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. So what it was I was this young guy, 25, and I was the second person ever to play Frankie Valli in England, you know? But what happened was the guy before me had played it for like 5 years. So he had a real cult following. And then he decided to leave, you know? It's not like I pushed him out the door. He decided to leave and they decided to give it to me. But what they did was, there was the film of Jersey Boys coming out. So the original Broadway actor was going to come in for 6 weeks before I took over, you know? But they didn't tell me that. They just kept me waiting. So I didn't find out I got the role until 2 weeks before rehearsals. So all through that time, I was either going to leave the show or get the role. So 2 weeks before that decision, my head, I'm just like, I just went a bit mad, you know, with waiting. And my thoughts, I wasn't as strict with my sort of focus on my thoughts at that time. My thoughts just went out the window. Also, once I got announced that I was playing the role, there was a few what you'd call trolls, you know, and I was only a young guy, and they would just say, they would just at me on Twitter, you know, the show's going to close once you take over, you know, I just get all this hate. Why would you want to do that to someone, you know? Well, anyway, there was a lot of that, you know, and there would be people posting like mean things I hadn't even started yet, you know? So I just got really in my head about perfection and not wanting to be a failure. And that led to a lot of intense pressure. And then what happened after that was I started to get a bit in my head about everything, and I got very anxious, and I actually started to get chronic throat pain. I did in a rehearsal pull a muscle in my neck and my throat, which meant I couldn't sing properly for a lot of the rehearsal, and it was all through this stress, right? And it just built up, and I was just like, I'm going to fail. Literally in my mind, I was like, I'm going to let myself down and fail. But just through sheer determination, I just continued, you know? And weirdly, the weirdest thing is now looking back is I got nominated for awards for the role. You know, it's like it was a great job, but I just couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't find the joy in it anymore. So I had chronic throat pain. No one could figure that out. I started to get stomach digestive issues, hair loss, all this stuff happening, right? And I even got diagnosed with hair. They're like, you're going to lose your hair by the time you're 30 unless you take these tablets, blah, blah, blah. So I had all of these things. And I was just like, oh my God. Had a girlfriend at the time who then went through her things. I helped her through it. When I started to go through trouble, she left. You know, just felt like everything was falling apart. No ill will towards anyone. You know, that was just the way it was. And I just was like, I'm lost. All I'm talking in my head is I'm swearing at myself in the morning, saying, why are you doing this to yourself? Just so in much intensity. And I was like, I got through. This was towards my second year. The first year was not as bad. It took about a year and a half to really hit the burnout, you know, because I was young. But once I hit that burnout, I just got through the rest of my second year just through determination. After that, I left the show and I was like, I need to heal something in me. So I was looking everywhere. Doctors couldn't do it. They were testing me for everything's fine. Therapists couldn't do it. You know, I'd been a fan of Louise Hay, and I actually was rereading her book, You Can Heal Your Life, you know? And I was like, you know what? I need to do this. It must be something within me, because the doctor who checked my throat said there's no problem. They said I had some digestive issues, but I was like, I used to eat bread fine. You know, it's like, why suddenly now can I not? You know, I used to be able to eat all my favorite foods got taken away from me. You know what I mean? Basically, I took all the joy out of life. And this is what I try and say to my clients a lot. Often these things come up because we're secretly punishing ourselves, you know? And I think in some way I was punishing myself for the way I was acting. I was angry at myself for not being able to enjoy something that should be so wonderful, you know? So I was just punishing myself. So I started to learn this. So I started to do a lot of mirror work, a lot of inner work, and I started to recognize I need to work with my energy more, even more than just my self-talk. So I worked with a wonderful voice coach who was into some spirituality. And she said to me, just sit and focus on that pain in your throat and don't judge it. And I did. And I just bawled my eyes out. Just everything came out that I was holding on to, all that pain, emotional pain that had to manifest physically, just came out of me. And 2 weeks later, my throat pain had gone. Everything was gone. I then, I remember sitting there one day just to give you the full run of it. And I said, universe, you know, I've had enough of, you know, dating around, you know, bring me who I'm meant to be with. And this is another fun story I could tell you another time, but it brought me my now wife. And the way that the universe brought her to me was so magical. And she was a wonderful healing tool for me too. Because she loved me unconditionally. She gave me the space. And through that, I just one day was like, see this sandwich here, I'm going to just enjoy this. And I have no fear over it. I dealt with all the fear around food and I ate it and nothing happened. My stomach's healed. And the hair loss thing, I worked with that because they said I never took the tablets because I didn't like the idea of the potential side effects. And so I just started to work with, I care so much about something very minor, really. So let me stop caring. So I just started to stop myself going to the mirror, stop myself doing these things. Again, I tell people, don't keep checking. What's checking the next day going to do when you're on a healing process? You know, people want things very instantly, and that's not always the case. We've got to be ready to kind of sit back and be patient. Wayne Dyer says it beautifully, infinite patience creates quicker manifestations, you know? And so for me, I was like, I'm patient. And I came to terms with, well, if my hair does go, let's say it goes, what? I've got my wife, we've got children, whatever. And eventually I just said, I don't care anymore. What happened in that moment, I'd by the time I've been lifting up, sending love to it, blessing my hair, and then I let go. And then look at me now, I'm 11 years on from that diagnosis and I've still got a head of hair on, you know? So all of these things really just need us to get out of the way and start to just make a definite decision. The emotion, pain often is emotion held, long held, you know? The digestive issue was because I just was living in fight or flight. I had to get to a point where I was like, I don't care anymore. Life is, I'm going to let life lead me now. The hair thing again, stop caring so much, let go. And then when you let go, things work out. And that was the journey of coming to this point where I was like, I love this subject. I could speak about it every day and never get bored. So I'm going to start talking about it on YouTube. I started helping people on the tour. Forgive me, I'm trying to be good with the story here, but they asked me to come back on the tour of Jersey Boys. And by that time, I'd done a lot of inner work. So I started to use Louise Hay's affirmations. And I just said, this show is so easy for me. Everyone at the show loves and respects me. The producers love and respect me. The audience loves me. This is so easy for me. I went back and did that show for 15 months straight, and I missed 1 week because of a chest infection. And that was it. It was the easiest thing I've ever done. It was nice to tick it off and be like, look at how easy this show is for me. So I ticked that off, realized that I miss my children so much, and decided, well, I've been trying to build up this coaching. I want to help people more than perform for them now. And so I just started it, and the journey went to there. So I'm going to cut out a couple of bits that are unimportant. I started the YouTube channel, and then people started to find me. And now every day I'm coaching people and helping them.
Great story, Michael. And I'm like, oh my God, and he's an actor, so he knows how to tell. Like, your storytelling is so good, but then the actual message and the essence of it, and the tangible examples that you gave of your gut health, your hair, the pain in your body, which was your throat. Like, it's something that I think anyone can relate to, something going on in their body. And I always find it fascinating because I'm so fascinated about this stuff too. Clearly, that's why you and I are here talking about it, why I have a podcast, why I'm a coach too. I just think it's so crazy and cool that we can spend time coming within and make changes in our lives. And I think it's so fascinating that we still live in a world where there is so much pain and everything, and that the solution just seems like cut the thing out, or I'm always like a bit perplexed by it. I know that plays a role of course, in some scenarios, but like to not understand the root cause, I find it like even my sister's partner yesterday, he was having heart pains and he went to hospital and they're like, oh, it's stress. And I'm like, yeah, like, stress plays such a big role in our lives and in my life too. And that's what really led me here to this fascination, because the pressure that we put on ourselves, like you were saying, Michael, the pressure you were putting on yourself and how mean you were being to yourself and what that was causing in your body, like tangibly, the energy doesn't know where to go. So it starts to just create these things. So we listen and so we relax a bit more if we can. And then you saying I guess the contrast to that of when you went back into the show, and in that, like, your mindset was different, obviously. And the way that you spoke to yourself, like you said, this is going to be so easy and the people on the show love me, like this kind of language, this way of speaking to ourselves is quite foreign. Like, it's not a natural thing that we're taught to do, is it, Michael?
No, because often what we're doing accidentally is, now don't get me wrong, my parents never actually were they were very supportive in that way, very complimentary. But at the same time, I needed outside validation because of that, from something lovely they did. I was like, oh, I feed off compliments, please. I need them to survive, And so what I had to learn was to be my own sort of cheerleader, instead of waiting for someone else to tell me you did a great job. And so the funny thing there is that people who are, you look at some people and you go, oh, they're just so effortless in life, And sometimes they're not even spiritual, but what they have is they have a great inner relationship with themselves often. They're kind and gentle and they're not judgmental. And so for me, like when I was on that 15-month tour, it wasn't like I didn't come up against any challenges. Through that tour, I had some big family things going on that my wife's sort of story. So I won't share now because it's not my story to share, but we had some big things to deal with, But throughout that, instead of what I would have done in the past, which would be like, oh, it's going to affect, I can't do this. It's too stressful. I'm not going to be able to do my work. It was like, the work's easy. I'll deal with everything else. And this is easy, we'll figure it out. There's what it does to the physical body in that moment is the physical body goes, okay, you said that we're safe. You're not worried. So we're not going to tense up, and we're going to, so that all the unconscious things like my, immune system and my, digestion and all that is going, will work perfectly for you because you're telling us we're safe. So you will keep you healthy so you can deal with other stuff, And so even I was moving from venue to venue, right? Sometimes I drive back from Sheffield to the south of England, which is like, for any English listeners, it was like the north of England to the south, just to see my wife for an evening because she was pregnant with my daughter, and then go back the next day and still do the show. And in London, I was just going back and forth. It was no effort. I had no one else to think about, and I couldn't keep it up. So it shows you that if you create an environment in yourself that says, this is easy for me. I love simple affirmations like that. Do you know, like if like any business owners that are watching now, it's like, I'm wonderful at business. It's so effortless for me to grow my business. I mean, that is just a wonderful way to start to talk to yourself, and it just starts to expand your potential, because we have this conscious mind that can only figure out so much. It's like you say to me a sum right now, and I'm going to start having to think about it consciously. But when it comes to the idea of this deeper knowledge or the deeper mind that is connected to what I believe is the divine, if I get out of the way, I allow divine guidance to show me the answer now. So if I say this is easy for me to grow this business, or it's effortless for me to get new wonderful clients, now my deeper mind goes, okay, I'm going to inspire you to make this video. I'm going to inspire you to meet this person. I'm going to guide you to this place. And it shows me the way rather than me having to figure it all out. When you're stressed and sort of more physical, you're always trying to figure things out and protect yourself and plan. And it stops you from seeing the potentials, So it's once we start to speak differently, create an environment of peace. My message is find peace, even in the chaos, and your life around you will then start to unfold in that way.
Yes, I've watched a few of your videos where you talk about the Prince of Peace and the power of calm and relaxing yourself. Like I know you've spoken about doing simple affirmations, which I think is such a great bit of advice because it's so easy to make it complicated, hey? And all the detail that we can get caught up in. It's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Just make it simple and slow it down. And the other day I was watching a video of yours where you were talking about the power of relaxing the body. But if you're feeling really worried and really tense and anxious, if you could speak into what to do there, because if just say right now I'm feeling like, whoa, my body is charged, I'm panicking, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And then I can't just go, peace, because you're so wound up.
This is beautiful. So I always say, never do your affirmations whilst you're in the fear response, whether that's anxiety or whatever it is. So I'm someone who had, proper chronic anxiety, I would say I had for about a year and a half, In that moment, nothing makes sense. So let's just be kind to everyone. In that moment, you're so overwhelmed. That's okay. It's okay to feel that way. Saying I'm grateful, I'm blessed is not going to change your state of being. Your mind underneath all that's going to go, F you, you're not, So instead, what I ask people to do is I go, what you have to recognize about anxiety and overwhelmment is it's a sensation on your body rather than you. It's not you. It's a sensation that you are experiencing, and it feels so uncomfortable that it's taking all your attention. That's what it is, right? So what I tend to do there now is if someone's feeling anxious, as I say to them, all you want to do in that moment is run, check your phone, Google what's the problem, search something. And I'm going to say, don't do any of that, because that's feeding into the anxiety. Instead, I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes. It's going to feel really uncomfortable. So don't worry, that's natural. I'm going to ask you to scan through your body. Where do you notice the anxiety on yourself? You see, because what it is it's a sensation. I like to think about it like this. Who is it inside me that even notices this feeling? Because there's anxiety, and there's the part of me that notices that I've got anxiety. That's the part of you that is the divine spark, right? So if you sit into that space and you just observe that energy, it's going to feel uncomfortable if you're very overwhelmed. Yeah. So don't worry. But what you're going to do is you're going to breathe and relax your body. You're going to let your shoulders relax and you're going to just breathe in deep. Now, say it comes up to my chest whenever I've had anxiety. Now I will just observe this energy. It will start to move. It will do whatever it wants to do. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to try and change it. If I relax my body in that moment, there's two things that happen. In a spiritual sense, I become the observer and I allow this energy to move and eventually release. Because we have these energy centers. So now it will be able to move up and it will release. You'll get this, I get a tingling feeling, other people get a different feeling. But you'll feel some sense of, you'll be like, I'm at peace. After that moment, you are perfectly at peace. Now you're in the sort of space where you can now claim what you want instead, which is, I like to say something like, divine peace fills my soul. Divine love saturates my entire being. I'm divinely guided in all my ways. Everything is working out for me. Beautiful. Now I'm at absolute peace. I've claimed what I've wanted in a state of peace and presence. And now I let go. Now I have changed my whole environment. And the second thing that's happening is your body physically wants to run away, but instead you've decided to sit and relax. That energy in your body cannot exist anymore in a body that is relaxing. So it has to leave. That's the physical side too. So we're marrying spirituality with the physical. And so eventually it releases. You'll have this sense of presence and peace. There'll be no thoughts or very gentle thoughts, you know? And you can now direct your thoughts to what you want. That's what I did. When I was changing from an actor to being a coach, there was some pain to go through, you know, of like financial pain, because I lived in fear for a bit longer, you know. And I remember the day when I wanted to change and I was like, I've had enough of feeling this way. That's what I want everyone to do, who's whether they're healing their body, wanting to manifest success. I've had enough of feeling this fear of lack and limitation. So all I did was I noticed every time that fear come up, I sat with it like I've just described until it released. And then I said this affirmation: I'm where I'm meant to be. I'm doing what I love. I'm infinitely prospered, infinitely blessed. And then I added on what I wanted to add on. You can change it from here. I said I have a fully booked, wonderful coaching business with clients that are succeeding in all areas of life. I'm paid well and I'm successful, you know? And then what happened? I started to make YouTube videos. That was my action from it. And I changed my website around a bit. People started to book me out of nowhere. Within 6 weeks, I went from £40 left in the bank with 3 children and a wife to look after. In 6 weeks, to having more money than I'd had in about 3 years. And it's like, what? Because basically I stopped checking the outside world. I stopped making it about what was coming to me, about attracting to me. I started to think, I just want to feel different. So what I realize now when I'm teaching people is, if I can create an environment of peace, no matter what's happening around me, of expectancy, of trust, peace, harmony, all the divine energies, now life has to, in some way, reflect that back to me eventually. Now there's going to be a time delay, but if you're not looking for that thing that you're not keep checking for it because you feel good, then the time doesn't feel like it's taking long. That's one thing. People go, well, I've been doing this for years, it's not working. I'm going, you keep checking. Do it for 6 weeks without checking and just about how you feel and see what happens. But a lot of people want it to be about creating something rather than feeling something. If you make it about feeling something, then your life will change.
Yeah, it's something that Gabby Bernstein, I don't know if you have heard of her, Michael, but I love her, and she was a real gateway for me into spirituality because she's you know, she's kind of cool, and she used to live in New York City, and she just has jeans and a, you know, I think while she was a real yogi, Kundalini yoga woman, like in the white outfit, but her marketing was like her and like, you know, just a relatable, cool woman, like similar to you, like a cool, just a relatable guy. And I think you're such a great gateway for people with spirituality, because it's like, oh, it's Michael, I can relate to him, and he's a dad. But you know, she always says, like release and give up what you think you need and focus on how you want to feel. So just hand over what you
I've
think you
heard her
need.
say it. I love that. Well, the other day, a quote from her came up, and it was so interesting because it aligned so much with my values as well. But she was like, "Make it about inner peace, and the rest will come." I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's and the reason why I come back to this idea is I don't know why the inner peace journey came to me. I was very much into Joseph Murphy and really getting to know Neville Goddard. But what I found with Neville Goddard, and this is obviously, he's amazing, but I found the way that he spoke was sometimes difficult to comprehend what he's truly meaning. So my point was, what is the simplicity behind all of this? What is the simple thing that they're trying to tell us? And I realized it's like, find peace. And it was that thing. And I'm not someone who's like intense into the Bible, but I do like reading the Bible. And I say it a lot in my videos. Jesus is that meant to be that enlightened man. He's meant to be the version of ourselves that we can become through spirituality. And he is the Prince of Peace. There's no resistance in him. That's what they're saying. Why is he able to create instantaneously? No resistance. He's fully at peace, fully faithful, fully trusting. So it's like if you make it about letting go of the energy. So say, for example, there, Patrice, it's like, okay, a problem's come up. It doesn't make me feel good. An unexpected bill, let's say. Oh, I feel so much fear about that unexpected bill because I've only got enough to get by. Your next moment there is so lucky because now you have a chance to change. Even though it feels so uncomfortable, you can actually look at that problem now and go, oh my God, a chance to change now because I'm going to deal with this feeling. I'm going to observe it until it releases. Then I'm going to claim, you can claim anything, which would be like, God is the infinite source of my supply, and that need is met now. I fully trust in this process. I'm willing to let go. And you just do that. You don't take any action from fear, and you're better off remaining pretty still if you're in fear. But once you've released the fear, take a little bit of action, watch what happens. Something's going to come up. And I've used this same thing to make a client who needed £35,000 by the end of the month. He was like, man, help. And I was like, listen, you're not going to like what I'm going to say, though, because I'm not going to ask you to do a lot. And I'm going to ask you to deal with the feeling rather than the problem. And we did. And guess what? 2 days before he needed it, he didn't manifest 35,000. He manifested 70,000. Double. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my
So I'm saying
gosh.
those issues are actually sometimes a gift because of the universe. God is saying, I'm gonna need to push you to see if you have faith in me. Can you give it over to me? Or it's I don't see it as a human being up in the sky, but can you give it over to this presence and trust into your deeper self? And once you do that, man, life is a crazy way of working out for you.
Michael, you really do it, and I know that you it's such a big part of your message, but and also why I was drawn to you, and I'm sure so much of your audience is because you make it so practical. When you were talking before about, the body and giving that example of what's going on in the body when someone's experiencing fear, and then that moment to respond differently. And then you were talking, also from the lens of spirituality and what's happening there. You really do deliver it in a simple, understandable, relatable way. And I do agree with you. There's so much of Neville Goddard that I love, but I know him through so many great YouTubers that break
Yeah,
down his methodologies and his messages because he's from 100 years ago or something. And so it's like, what are you actually talking about? Like, I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. I'm just confused and I'm in my head now. And you're telling me to feel, but I'm in my head because I don't know what you meant. So I think that
yeah.
that's
And I actually really think, if I just to jump on that moment, I think one of the biggest things I have with spirituality at the moment is people are trying to make you create a false feeling inside of you. And my message here is behind that feeling of fear is all the feelings you want anyway. So it's like you do not need to force gratitude. Yeah. Forcing gratitude is the same thing as creating resistance, I believe. You know? So it's like I'm really, and the people, I mean, I get some people really fire back at me about it. And I'm like, I love a gratitude list. I used to give all my clients a gratitude list. But what I recognized actually was they don't want to, it's actually making them feel worse because I'm making them create a feeling that they're not ready to feel. Gratitude comes out of peace. So if you make it about releasing the issue, the energy rather than anything else, you'll come to a place of stillness. From there, you look out the sky, at the blue sky. At that point, you're going, I feel grateful for that sky because I've got space to feel grateful. You can't feel grateful on top of fear. You have to deal with the fear, and then you can start to feel grateful. And then that's when I'm like, oh, my beautiful wife, my beautiful kids. You know, I can look at the picture in my office now and be like, oh, I love them. But if I'm fearful, I'm not like, oh, that feels. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to sort this out. Wait, I've got to look over here, look there. It's like I don't have space to take the time to enjoy that feeling. Deal with the fear, and you can feel any feeling you want after that of joy, you know?
Mm. And I think you've given some great examples of, I guess, things that we mistake. For example, like just wanting to be grateful over feeling really scared or feeling overwhelmed and just trying to slap on a few, I'm grateful, but truthfully in the body, it's telling a very and vibrating at a very different frequency and telling a different story. So I think that's probably like a great hack or misconception or, just helping people out. Is there something else that comes to mind now, Michael, that you would advise, or something within this law of attraction, spirituality that's just such a big topic everywhere? Is there something else that you're noticing that people are missing in this process of finding more peace?
Yeah, no, really good question. So when you were talking there, there's a couple of things that come up, and I don't know if this is the right response or not, but it feels right to say it. But so let's just talk about something practical that we can all relate to. Let's say I want to earn more money. I want to manifest more money. Just why I talk about money in this sense rather than even healing is because it's like it's just tangible. All of us go through money thoughts and fears, and especially with the news. One thing I say to you guys, a little bit of advice: watch less news. As less, you'll find out. I know what's going on in the world. I haven't watched a news channel in years. I still know what's happening in Israel though, because you find out, right? So, but I'm not inundated with it. Someone said the other day on the plane, I was flying in a plane, and they went, "Hey guys, keep your belt on," and because of what we've been reading in the news recently, I was like, "What is that news then?" I'm glad I don't know, because now I'm just going to enjoy the flight. And the flight was peaceful because I'm not inundated with knowledge that's not necessary for me. We've only got a small amount of space in our minds to take information in. Make sure it's divine information. Like, saturate yourself with loving thoughts rather than fear-based thoughts. So here's the thing. Let's talk about earning a bit more money. Let's say you're someone who's really just getting by, is struggling. You are not going to manifest from any extra money by just robotically going, I am wealthy, I am this, I am prosperous, I am abundant. Because underneath it all, your mind's going to be going, no, you're not. No, you're not. That bill's tomorrow. No, you're not. You've had to stop that direct debit. No, you're not. So you're going to have all this inner turmoil. All that inner turmoil is the fear. So once you start to stop making it about changing something outside yourself and going, the biggest thing that I need to deal with right now is this emotion or this energy. Make it about that. You don't really need to affirm anything until you find that relief. The only time that your affirmation or your visualization or your imagery, if you're using Neville Goddard and you're wanting to visualize, you're a visual person, your mind isn't going to comprehend it unless you find that stillness. This is why they talk about getting a very still sleep-like state, because it takes away all resistance. I say similar thing. Notice the fear that's come up that makes you want to change your life. Observe that fear on the body. Where is it? In my chest? Is it in my throat? Is some people get in the jaw, hands? Doesn't matter. Just let it move in you. Your heart is the sorting center of all your energy. It will move. It will come through the heart and you'll feel this release. and you'll just be like, oh my gosh, I feel good. There's no thoughts in my head right now. So now I'm going to say, I'm where I'm going to be, doing what I love, infinitely prospered, infinitely blessed. There is only one source of my supply, and all my needs are met now and forever. There's always a divine surplus. That's one affirmation that I would say. Wow, now I didn't fight against it. My brain had no energy to fight against it. It just went, okay. So I do that for a number of weeks, couple of months, without getting sucked into the reactiveness of life. Well, I've had another bill come out. Oh well, got to do it again then. If you can get to that space where it's like the inner environment's more important, trust me, do it for a number of months, weeks, couple of months. Your whole life will change, just as mine did. And I promise you that.
Such a handy tool. And it's free. You can just,
Yeah.
this is the magic of this stuff, you know. Obviously getting a coach is so helpful, but also if you're not in a position to do that, listen to this podcast episode 20 times, or just time mark the point where Michael starts to describe what it is to do, and just keep coming back there and just get the support that you need even from this conversation. This is the beauty of this stuff. And also I love that because you also really get to see how powerful you are.
You do. And this is the thing, right? Once my environment started to reflect it back to me, I'm like, now I'm growing in faith. You see, you don't start at full faith. I'm sorry, you don't. You're always like, is this real? Is it not? Now I'm like, so I've had multiple stories where my cat ran away for 3 days as a kitten. And everyone's like, it's so cold out there. She's probably dead. I'm like, nah, deal with the feeling. See her come back. I remember sitting there and I had a vision of my wife messaging me because I was away with a picture of her eating food. 3 days later, I get a message. She's back. A picture of her eating food. The only way that came to be was because every time someone said something opposite nature that I didn't want, I didn't emotionally embrace it. Any emotion that came up, I observed it, detached from it, let it release, then affirmed what I did want. And guess what happened? You see what I mean? And I do this in every problem. I just changed my website because I got the new membership, you know, but the old website wasn't redirecting to it. So for 4 weeks, people weren't able to even reach my website. So everything stopped. Like nothing was happening, no new clients, nothing. Instead, I just laid back in the chaos. It's like, okay, this is obviously part of me that needs to deal with this energy. There's still a part of me that is fearful in some way. So I dealt with the fear, found peace, even went on holiday, came back. It's like everything just opened up. You don't need to change circumstance, you change yourself, and circumstance changes because of that.
I think this is such a great note to end on, Michael. You don't need to change anything but yourself. It's not your circumstances, it's you. Wow, thank you. And you did mention your membership. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically I've started because some people can't afford one-to-one coaching, you know, and as much as I've always, and I'm sure you do, we've always tried to keep it at a value-based price, you know, but still some people can't. So I decided to put all of my teachings onto a membership that is monthly uploads. You've got an inspiration station, you've got meditations on there, and we do bi-weekly live calls. And you get all of that and more for 20 a month or 200 for the year. And that just is a community of like-minded people where we're going into these subjects on a deeper level. You know, we're talking about them, we're growing. It's called the Living Reborn membership, because we have to literally, the old self must die for us to be reborn into the new self, you know? So that's what I'm teaching, how to let go of this old story, that old self who lives in this life we don't want, to be reborn into the new self who has a life of freedom.
Unreal. Well, I'll